What up, Net fans? NetsBoy bringing you the latest in your Brooklyn Nets news. As you can tell, I am sick. You can hear it in my voice. I'm currently recovering from, I believe, a sinus infection. I actually don't know. I'm very congested. My voice is kind of shot. Maybe it was about my big freak out I had last year on the Nets and Daniel Williams. I'm not even sure. But anyway, it's February 6th. Um, and the Nets uh, kind of suck again, but not really. I don't really know. It's interesting. It did what happened didn't shock me. From my last videos, I flipped out, and I flipped out about the play of the Nets. I flipped out about how they lost to the Raptors and all that stuff. Before we go on, though, if you noticed, I am back with sunglasses, and I'm actually wearing the Brooklyn Nets hat. Because remember, I said that if the Nets lost two straight, I'll go back to this look. Well, they actually lost three straight. They lost first, the Raptors, which I flipped out about, and we all know about that. Then they got absolutely destroyed by the Thunder and absolutely destroyed by the Pacers. So it didn't shock me. But they did manage to salvage the most recent game against the 76ers with no Joe Johnson, no Andre Blatch, no Andre Kirilenko. That was a good game. But overall, this team just, like I was saying, it frustrates me to see this team because, like I said, that game against the Raptors, they could not afford to lose because I knew they were going to lose to the Thunder. And I was pretty sure they were going to lose to the Pacers. And now here they are, 21-25. They're still 4 games under 500. They're now still on the 7th seed. They're still about 2.5, 3 games out from the Atlantic Division leading Raptors, and they're just in this situation where they have to start playing consistent, and that's the biggest problem with this team. You look at the Nets team, it just screams inconsistency. Every player on the Nets roster is extremely inconsistent. Darren Williams, really inconsistent. Paul Pierce, he had a great game against the 76ers, but we all know, as I mentioned before, really inconsistent. Joe Johnson, I'm pretty sure he's the definition of inconsistency. Kevin Garnett, lately he's been relatively consistent, but he hasn't been at a high level. Sean Livingston, he's either going to be like the greatest player on the court or the worst. You know what I mean? Like, Allen Anderson is hot or cold. That is the definition of this team, is inconsistency. That's just the way it goes. And that is the problem. That's why this team, I don't believe, could win a championship this year. They're just too inconsistent. But that also being said, inconsistent teams, as much as they can lose games, they can easily win. And they could get really hot at any time, like they did earlier this year. So you really don't know what's going to happen with them. It's very hard to tell. And like I said, in my opinion, they should end up a couple games over 500 come the end of the season. I'm thinking around 45 wins. I feel like they should be at least the 4 seed in that weak Eastern Conference. But they have to start playing consistent. And Darren Williams needs to become the star player he's supposed to be. He needs to start averaging 20 and 10. He needs to. He had 21 and 6 against the 76ers, whatever. But as you remember last week, as I flipped out on him, he always gets outperformed. It's just what happens. And he needs to start really establishing himself. Obviously, Joe Johnson has played well. He was hurt. He's actually an all-star. I'll talk to you about that, my opinion on that for a second. But before I go there, but Paul Pierce is inconsistent. Everyone's inconsistent. Darren Williams needs to be consistent. The whole team needs to be consistent, but he needs to be more than anyone else because he is the leader of the team. When your leader's inconsistent, you're screwed. So that's really the truth of this team, and that's all I've gotten from him. The last few games. They got on the hot run, as we know, but now you're getting to a rough stretch and inconsistency. They can beat a team like the Thunder one night, then get blown out by them the next. And I think that's what separates good teams from the great teams. The good teams will be inconsistent. The great teams bring it in, night out, and even when they're having a bad game, they find ways to make themselves better and good that they look consistent. But that being said, there's not much to talk about with this video. Obviously, like I said, I'm very sick, so I'm not going to talk much more. I'm just going to tell you my opinion about Joe Johnson and the fact that he is an all-star. I think it's okay. I think it's good. He's the only one on the Nets right now who I feel like actually, I want to say deserves to be an all-star, but is the best player on the Nets now. So if any Net is going to be an all-star this year, it should be him. Would normally been Brook Lopez, but as we know, he got hurt. And then you look at the rest of the Nets team, Joe Johnson has been the best player, hands down, on the team. And I know there's a lot of backlash, a lot of people upset, a lot of people think Kyle Lowry should have made it, Lance Stevenson. I kind of agree with that. I think those guys should have made it as well. But everyone thinks that they should make one of those. Well, I think Kyle Lowry should have made it. I don't think Lance Stevenson should have made the All-Star team. Obviously, he's had a great year, but I don't know. To me, he's not an all-star. He's a great role player, but not an all-star. That's my personal opinion. But Kyle Lowry to me, deserved to be on the all-star team. But I wouldn't say he should be on the all-star team ahead of Joe Johnson. I think he should be on the all-star team ahead of Joakim Noah. I think Joakim Noah, everyone loves him so much. He's definitely a really great, big, but he's somebody I feel like who's a little bit more overrated in this league, at least now. I think he should have been on the spot instead of Joe Johnson. But, you don't know. And the truth is, the reason why Lowry was not chosen to be on the All-Star team was because the coaches wanted to clearly put a Net on the team. Because at the time of the All-Star voting, the Nets were the hottest team in the league. They went 10-1 at that time during the voting process. So they were really hot. And in their opinion, they're like, the Nets, and for a lot of people's minds, despite their record, are the third best team in the East. So a lot of people felt that there had to be a Net on the team. A lot of coaches felt that. So that's one reason why they voted Joe Johnson on the team, because they felt there has to be a Net. Especially after last year, the debacle, the fact that no Nets were on the team last year, and they had the fourth best record in the East. And then Lopez got on because Rondo got hurt. Like, that's ridiculous. So I think it's almost like a makeup. And the other thing is, as good as the Toronto Raptors have been this year, they were not going to get two All-Stars. They were not. They got DeMar DeRozan. They were not going to get DeMar DeRozan and Kyle Lowry. They were not. Coaches do things like that. Doesn't matter how good the player has been. A team like the Raptors who, the Nets wouldn't get more than one player on the All-Star team, too. No team under 500 or around 500 usually will ever get more than one All-Star on a team. Coaches do that. And that's what they did to the Raptors. Yes, the Raptors are currently the 3 seed or the 4 seed in the East. Yes, they're having a great year for them. But the coaches were not going to have two Raptors on the All-Star team. It was either going to be DeRozan or Lowry. I actually think it should have been Lowry over DeRozan, though DeRozan's also having a fantastic year. I think it's a toss-up there. But overall, I don't want to, like I said, I don't want to say Joe Johnson does not deserve it, because I think he has been the best Net. His numbers don't really reflect as that of an all-star, 16 points a game, like 3-point-something assists and rebound, whatever. It's the all-star game. Everyone just wants to see the big dunks and this, everyone's there to really see LeBron James, Paul George, all those guys. That's what they really care about. They don't care about Joe Johnson or Kyle Lowry. You think the average basketball fan cares who's on the All-Star team between Joe Johnson and Kyle Lowry? No, not at all. The average fan couldn't care less about either of those guys, really. The average fan likes to see excitement in the All-Star game. Kyle Lowry's kind of exciting with the way he plays. But, the excitement they look in All-Star games is, deep threes and crazy alley-oops and crazy dunks. And those guys don't do that. So that's why DeMar DeRozan is a good fit in the All-Star game, because that guy's a high flyer. Joe Johnson, Kyle Lowry, whatever. That's also why I don't like Joakim Noah to be in the All-Star game. Nobody wants to see that. I understand it's the recognition you want to give to a player who's played well, but at the same time, the fan. It's kind of for the fans. It's not like it's not like baseball in which the winner of the All Star winner of the All Star game, that um, that league gets home field advantage in the World Series or the championship. It's not like that. But whatever, it'll be interesting to see. One last note: people trying to get Mirza Teletovic in the 3 shooting contest. I keep my finger crossed for that as well. Teletovic, I would love to see him in the 3 shooting contest. I was at the Mavericks game where he went off for 34 points. That was awesome. So I'm gonna push for that too. People should. I don't know how it works with trying to get the 3 shooting people. I don't know who makes that decision. But let's hope Teletovic is there. That'd be cool. And that's really it. The Nets have the Spurs later tonight. Then they got the Pistons. They got the Pelicans. They got to go 2 out of 3, and they've got to start righting the ship and staying with these wins. If they do, we'll see what happens. Like I said, this is kind of a boring video. I apologize because I wasn't feeling well. If I was feeling better, this might have been a little bit more interesting. But I apologize. To the next NetsBoy. This is NetsBoy signing off.